Okay, so it's 4:31. I'll go ahead and start the meeting. So our first thing that I'd like to do is just kind of review and just discuss briefly anything that stuck out from the presentation from Bruce Stewart from the St. Lawrence County Childcare Council. So it seems like our goal of opening a center within the next 18 to 24 months was reasonable. I think one of the things that we had mentioned is that we really want to find out more about the Jack and Jill daycare and why they closed. I know that we had some anecdotal evidence that there were financial issues, but I think it would be beneficial to look in and see what exactly those financial issues were. Was it mismanagement of money? Was it that they weren't getting enough money to stay open? Were they not filled? Did they not, have a wait list or anything like that? I think we should do as much research and digging into that, as we can. Let's see. Just kind of looking through my notes here. I don't know if anything else stuck out to you, Nicole.
No, not in particular. I think they provide us a lot of really great information, and I think they're going to be a great resource and a partner as we move forward to develop whatever path we decide to go down. And I think at some point we're going to need to have a very frank discussion about what that is. And I know we've kind of tossed around the idea of, would this be something we would develop a building and a business plan for and somebody else would come into, or is this something that a new venture for us? So I think that that's a discussion we'll need to have because I think the way we proceed forward and the information that we have to get might differ depending on that. Although I think some of the foundational things very much would be the same regardless.
Yeah, so I'm not sure where we're going to go with that. I do know that my position, as a nurse, it's always a lot better if nursing decisions are made by nurses rather than people who aren't doing the day-to-day nursing. So it might be worth, like you said, getting more information, but I know that it may be a better route to actually have people doing the day-to-day care of the children be the decision makers rather than a board that's far removed. But like you said, we'll kind of keep going and see where it brings us. So I guess for the next agenda item, because we're trying to keep it quick for you, Nicole. I think we need to continue.
You have me till 5:30. Don't be quick for me.
Okay. So I think what we need to do is kind of figure out what we do next. And I think there's still a lot of work that we need to do to find out what the community, we kind of learned from the St. Lawrence Child Care Council what the community needs and is lacking. But I think we also have a lot of work to do to see maybe what the community wants and kind of see where their needs and wants overlap. And I think that will give us a better picture of what we should be looking for. So I don't know if anybody has any ideas of where we move forward and how we kind of survey the community to see what they want.
What are we actually looking for? A commitment from maybe 150 people out there who think it's a good idea to have a child care facility? Or are we looking for something a little bit more information?
Can you say that, Sam, one more time, just a little louder?
Yeah. I said, what actually are we looking for in terms of the survey? If they believe they would make use of a child care facility, or are we looking for more information regarding maybe ages of kids that they would bring, or how much they'd be willing to pay? I mean, how extensive do we want that survey to be?
Well, I actually think all those are a good question, and finding out what people need and what they want. I don't know if it's possible or realistic to do an actual survey of the community with all of those questions. Just kind of a broad range of like, do you have children in school or out of school? Do you need care off hours? Do you need assistance paying for childcare? How much do you think you could afford? It doesn't have to be very specific questions like what age are your children, but just very like, do you need care full-time, part-time, non-traditional hours or not? Things like that, I think would give us a good idea of what the community does need. And I know we had talked about before going to the main workforce in Ogdensburg, like the hospital, the correctional facilities, the psych center, because they do have those 12-hour, 16-hour shifts. So I don't know if there's a specific contact at those places that might know more about what their employees need that could kind of speak for them, or maybe they have a suggestion about how we reach their employees to find out what they are looking for. I'm sure that those facilities have an idea if they have staff calling in because they don't have childcare, things like that, that they might be able to tell us more about too.
Why don't we consider having the Child Care Council come up with a general survey and then get it out to maybe the personnel department of the facilities, whether it be the jail, the hospital, or any other larger scale employer, and see what we get back.
And I don't know if you find it or feel that it's appropriate, but I do know that I'm going back to where this conversation first started with the idea that this could be a benefit that's being offered as well to the businesses that are in the industrial park, right? So I think that those aren't considered fairly large employers, but they're near proximity-wise. They're very near, and it is. I mean, to be able to have your child being taken care of so nearby to where you work is a huge benefit and luxury. So I think that we should consider them as well as one of the principal players in the game.
That's a good idea. I'm also not opposed. I don't know how we would do it logistically, but even sending it out to the general public, because there might be people that want to join the workforce that currently can't because of childcare problems. And we wouldn't really be reaching those people if we only focus on employers. And presumably if we did open up a childcare center, that some of those people that want to get back into the workforce, if we take into account what they need to get back into the workforce, that would be beneficial as well. So I'm not really sure how we would get that out to the general public, maybe, or the non-working people at this time. But maybe the Child Care Council has a way to reach those people too.
I'm trying to think what's open now during COVID. None of the unemployment offices are open where people would ordinarily come into, but that doesn't mean we couldn't get something to people that work there. Maybe when they're discussing employment with people, that they could just mention that and hopefully jot it down.
I think that those would be good resources to use. Keeping in mind, I'm thinking of, some of these people that we may be wanting to, they might not even be involved with receiving benefits or contacts through the unemployment office. And I guess what I'm thinking about, and I'm thinking from like maybe a woman-centered, maybe you've got a mother that's been at home caring for her kids, and the cost of childcare has prohibited them from getting a job, but they're comfortable, and the other partner works, and so they're comfortable, and they just haven't entered. Both parents just haven't entered the job field because of that. So they might not be, we might not be able to reach them through things like the unemployment office. That might be something that just for the public, maybe whether it's social media or news or NCPR or, you know, just any of those media outlets that might be willing to just reach out or make people aware that we're trying to gather this information.
Sounds good.
So I think what our first step is at this point is to contact the St. Lawrence Child Care Council again, see if they have or are willing to create kind of a general survey, maybe even have another meeting with them to see kind of the information that we want. We may have a template, may already have something created, but we can kind of narrow down a meeting with them to see what information we should kind of put on the survey that we're kind of looking for and that we want to consider. So does that sound like a good next step? To kind of create this.
I think I can reach out to Stuart and kind of relay to him everything that we're talking about right now. He may even see the replay of this. But I think all of those things, he may be able to add to some of the things that you and Nicole have mentioned, where they may have something in place, but the other thing too, I would ask the committee that I know money drives a lot of what happens here, so you know, we may have to make a commitment to financially for somebody to help us out, and they may be too much, but I just wonder what you know, we try to do it if it's already there at the least cost, but I think too, if you can also have something for that, may help, you know, open up more resources for getting the answers that you're looking for.
I heard a little bit of what you were saying. It's so quiet.
Oh. Do you want me to repeat it, Tony?
If you don't mind, not all of it, just like the main, it's just very hard to hear.
No, I'll reach out to Bruce Stewart with a number of the things that you mentioned here and see if some of that might already be that information there, or going forward, I was mentioning that we may need some kind of financial commitment to help get some of the answers that we need to do the survey.
Okay, yes. And I think too, I know our budget's a little tight because of COVID. So I feel like, I don't know how Nicole feels, but I know I can also think of survey questions and put some work into this too. I know Bruce Stewart is probably a little busy. So I'm more than willing to do any of the work that is needed, put things out to the press or anything that we need done. So just if we ever run into that, I think that's something that I can do. I don't know. Do you have anything else on that, Nicole? I think that's a good start for what we'll do next is just kind of creating that survey.
I agree, and Tony, I concur with you. If there are small, nominal kind of tedious work that could be done that somebody's going to charge us for, I mean, I'm pretty handy with technology, and I know Anne Marie is, savvy with all of those things as well. I think that there's probably some things that we could gather in-house without having a cost to the, without creating a debt before we even have a plan in place.
Well, it is our survey, so we can, tailor it however we want and, put into it whatever we want. So, yeah, if you two certainly, I think, have better questions than I could come up with, so feel free.
Well, we do have that Google, that working document, Google Documents. So kind of like we did last time with our questions that we had for St. Lawrence Childcare Council. Nicole, we can just kind of add to that what we think we want to ask the community, what would be beneficial for us in determining, you know, kind of what they want, what they need, and where those overlap. So we can work on that and just kind of add our thoughts to that working document. And then we can just even seek input from the Child Care Council as kind of just as an advisor, say, how do these questions look? Is there anything we missed? So they're maybe not doing the bulk of the work, maybe we're doing the bulk of the work, but just asking them if they have any additions. I don't know if that would be more beneficial to them, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. I can do that as well.
I think it's important to remember too, and I'm going back to what he had mentioned as one of the biggest obstacles is transportation. While we want to gather as much data and information as possible, especially to make informed decisions, not right now, but down the road as far as a growth plan as well, I think it's important to keep in mind that transportation, getting kiddos to a child care center is kind of out of our hands, and that if there's not some kind of transportation in place, that regardless of if the services are needed, wanted, they wouldn't be able to access them in this preliminary phase. So I don't know, you know, having one of those questions as one, and I hate to, you know, but having one of those questions as one of the primary questions, really, if somebody cannot find transportation to and from the child care center, they really wouldn't be able to at this time use the services. So whether it's there or not, no matter how great it is. So I think that that'll be important, an important first question just before people invest the time. But that could be part of a down the road growth plan.
Okay, so I'll move on to our next item. It's planning for a future tour of a child care facility in the region. Obviously, when it's safe to do so. I know the vaccines are opened up to a lot of people. Or I think we could also see if there are any centers that are willing to let us tour after hours, maybe if when there's no children there, to make it more safe, just so we can look at the actual facilities. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I don't think we necessarily have to be there when all the children are there. I think that would be a beneficial thing for in the future when we get further down the road to actually see children in the center and how it functions with children there. But I think for this preliminary, if we can find a center that would let us tour even after hours, just so we can see how their setup is, I think that would be good. I know we mentioned Kinder Academy in Potsdam, SUNY Canton Daycare, the Canton Daycare Center, and Toddler Town in Messina were some of the ones that we had mentioned at our last meeting. So I don't know if it would be a good idea at this point to kind of reach out to them and say, you know, ask what their hours are and if there would be anybody willing to show us around maybe after they close.
Why not? Let's do that sooner than later. Does anybody have a preference? Tony, do you have a preference of what facility you'd like to see? Or I'm just familiar with seeing the one in Potsdam. I haven't seen the one in
Yes, I see the one in Potsdam every day because my children attend Kinder Academy. So all right. It's really up to you guys. Maybe Canton Daycare Center would be a good one, because I know for us, like our facilities, we're going to have presumably a child care center that's set up in more of like an industrial type place with like other businesses around, other things going on. Whereas like Kinder Academy is kind of its own thing, like SUNY Canton or SUNY Potsdam Daycare, they have their own building. It might be beneficial to see like Canton Daycare Center because they're in an area that has other things going on, which would be very similar to our setup. So that's kind of my thought, is that would be my number one preference, would to see the center that would most resemble what we're trying to do.
So Tony, is the one you're talking about, is that mixed in with something else, or is that standalone?
The Canton Daycare Center, I believe, is in Maplewood Nursing Home.
Oh, okay. So, so that's something you'd like to tour that then?
I think that would be my preference, but I'm open to going to any of them that have the time and that will let us be there.
Okay, well, yeah, we can, we'll try to set something up there with them.
Okay. Nicole, is that okay with you?
Yes, that sounds great. And I have been looking, I've been doing a little bit of research. There are several industrial parks and commerce centers across the country that now have childcare facilities right within them. So there are people that have done this work and models that are there that we could definitely use best practices from, that I'm sure that they would be, happy to support us. And what I've noticed is some of them, another decision that we'd have to make, we've kind of referenced the local childcare facilities that are kind of ground up. They were, they business plan model the whole way up. Many of the ones that I've seen, I noticed, are franchise type of childcare centers that have an approved curriculum. They've got, building plans and things like that. So that's another consideration we would have to take is, are we looking at creating a facility or a building that somebody else is going to come into? Because if it is, they might not want those things created for them. They may want to have some of that freedom. And if you're looking at a franchise type of a situation, they may have certain requirements. So that's another consideration that we really need to think about. Is there a group of people or an entity that wants to come in and build this center from the ground up? Or is there somebody that would be willing to establish a center with the guidance of a franchise?
Do you have those, do you have those sites, Nicole?
Yes, do you want me to create, there's actually one in Boston. I was thinking, little trip to Boston, we could go tour one there. Again, I won't charge you.
Again, we can't do that, so just like that.
I can put together a list of the ones that I've found so far, and I'll put that in the Google Drive as well. I have also reached out for some information from a couple of the franchises as well, just to see, just to kind of find out what it's like to start up a business. I'm not, as an educator, I know about kids, but to start a business up, I lack that expertise. So I just wanted to see what kind of insight they would have to provide to us.
Okay. I think we can move on. So our other steps forward. I added this to the agenda just because I'm curious to see if anybody has any ideas of anything else that needs to be done between now and our next meeting, or anything that needs to be done in the near future to keep moving ahead. I mean, I think we have a good direction right now. We're going to work on creating a survey for the public. We're going to reach out to some of the established daycare centers in the county, see if they can set up a tour of the buildings. Excuse me. And Nicole's going to create a list of daycares in commerce parks that have already been established, maybe in other areas. Is there anything else that Nicole or anybody else thinks that we could be working on at the moment?
Let me look at funding possibilities. If we decide to build a building and lease it, obviously we don't have the financial resources at this time, but we're looking for grants from either the federal or state government. So I'll see if I can find more information on that.
That would be really helpful, Sam, because I wouldn't be surprised if there are some caveats and requirements that would be tied to any of that funding as well that we would need to be considered that might decide some of our options and choices for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. And if there are any of those caveats, it's good to know sooner rather than later. We know going in what we're either going to need to do or what we can or can't do. So that's good. Okay, anything else?
Zoning, and I know we talked about this before, but I'm not sure if I'm clear about it. Is it zoned? Is our Commerce Park zoned for childcare at this time? Or is that something we would need to be working towards at the same time?
Well, we've had council look at that, Nicole, and I believe did I send that out to everybody? It was from Volatus, and they went through all of the permutations of that, and it's in our, if it's focused toward our mission as a Commerce Park, I think we're fine. Zoning, they'd have to look at, I know because we're a state agency here, that code enforcement and zoning is ours. We're not governed by, we try to stay within the community zoning part, but we have to check on that to see, but I do believe some of that was in the, some of the research that legal did on that to begin with. You never got that?
No, I did, but it still seemed, I kind of was looking for like a yes, if we could move forward with this in a month, or like, we're not sure. I just, it seemed more like a we think we can. But again, to do this work, make a business plan, do the research, and then we find out that somebody's going to be fighting us about the zoning on it, and we're going to have a legal battle on our hands. It's going to last a really long time. I think it'd be good to be prepared for that or know that as well.
Well, I think too, we're going under history that we had one there before. So unless something that I don't know about has, come up against us, or that we did have a childcare facility, 20 years ago. So I would guess that it's more on the positive side, but I can kind of take that and try to get a more definitive answer for you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we got a lot accomplished in just a short meeting, which is great. So I think, so our next meeting date, we don't need to invite, I don't think, anybody from the St. Lawrence County Child Care Council at this point. I think we'll meet again and like finalize our thoughts about what we're going to ask from them. So I think we can just set up our next meeting date and time with just us at this point, unless anyone has any objections to that. Okay, perfect. Nicole, do you have any objections to any, or like any days or times in May that don't work for you?
You tell me a day that works for you, and I'll tell you if I'm available, because some days, sorry, the grandfather clock. Some weeks I have back-to-back meetings all night, and other times I don't. So really, you just tell me a day would be much easier than me. Yeah.
Okay. I know we've been doing meetings every 2 weeks, but I think we actually have a lot to do between now and our next meeting. So what do you say about like going about 4 weeks out, like the weekend of May 17th, that week? Does that?
So I could do Tuesday or Thursday that week.
Tuesdays are better.
Tuesdays are better? Yeah, why don't we do Tuesday the 18th at 4? That work for everyone?
For Karen. Yeah.
Okay. Tuesday, May 8th at 4 p.m. Okay. Then we can.
Just to clarify, were we going to reach back out to the Childcare Council and see if they'd be able to put together a survey and if there would be a cost to it, or are we going to? We'll reach out to them first, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
just to
Okay.
see that, maybe there's something more extensive out there that we're not, maybe they thought we knew or we don't know, but I want to bring to them all the things that you talked about. We may say, here, we got this for you, and we can add to it because there might be some things that you want that aren't in that, that you brought up,
Absolutely.
like the workforce and things like that.
Okay, great. I want to make sure that we stay connected to them because, again, I think that they'll be pivotal to our decision making and super helpful along the way.
All right, my son says it's time for dinner.
Oh,
There's a smart boy right there.
that reminds me.
Anything else, then we can adjourn the meeting and I'll see you guys, I guess, actual board meeting.
There he is.
All
right, thank you guys.
Thank you,
Bye now.
Tony. Thank you, everybody in the boardroom.
Sorry
Bye,
again,
kiddo.
having to. Thanks for everyone to being so flexible.